What's up, YouTube? Nikolai Goldman here, and I'm bringing you a created prospects that EA couldn't include number 2. I know I did one before, and I didn't do as much research as I wanted to before I made that, but I went ahead and made it anyway. So there's going to be some changes in this creation zone. So I'm going to let you guys in on it, and I added a lot more players as well. And we're going to start off here with Ulti Bar Mac, Russian prospect for the Chicago Blackhawks. He had a pretty good World Junior tournament, so I have him at a mid-top 9 with some decent stats. I'm not going to go too far into the depth about each player, but I'm going to give you a little something about him. Next up, we got Adam Fox, offensive defenseman for Team USA in the World Junior Championships 2 years in a row. He's a mid-top 4 defenseman for the Calgary Flames. Next up, we got Adam Gaudet, potential Hobie Baker winner. Canucks are really high on this kid. I think he was like a 5th round pick. Anyways, he's a low top 6, 74 overall, so he's got good stats, got a good base to grow off of. Next up, we got Alexander Holtz, another good Swedish prospect. So he's going to be going the 2020 NHL entry draft, and Hockey News had him in their top 5. He's currently only playing the U18s right now, but that can change quick as he's only 15 years old. Next up, we got R2 Kamyov, another Russian prospect for the Chicago Blackhawks. He also played for them in the U20 tournament for Russia. So I give him some pretty good, decent stats all around the board. He's a low top 6 potential. Next up, we got Alex Newhook, potentially at number 2 pick in the 2019 NHL entry draft. He keeps it up. I'm hoping this kid will join the CHL, so we could really solidify his spot as the number 2, as that's what Hockey News had him rated at in their newest magazine issue. So he's a mid-elite 77 overall, and he should be going number 2 according to my draft, and I've tested it. So next up, we got Andrew Pecky. I'm not really sure. I just know this kid was he was invited for the USA World Junior Championship team. I don't think he made the cut, but I still want to include him. He's a mid-top 6 potential defenseman for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Next up, we got Apolli Rasanen. He played for Finland in the U20 tournament, and he had pretty good numbers. He had a decent amount of goals, so I'll give him some pretty good stats, and he's a mid-top 9. Next up, we got Alex Turcotte. He's potentially a top 5, maybe top 10 pick for next year's draft. He's been really starting to kick it in gear lately, so I'm in a high top 6, 70 overall. Next up, we got Alex Vlasic, the nephew of Marc-Andre Vlasic, and he's 6'5", so he's a lot taller than his uncle, but he's got some good stats all around, and he's a mid-top 4, most likely a top 10 pick in 2019's draft. Next up, we got Brady Kachuck. I know he's a little low overall, but he's probably not going to play in the NHL next year, but I still gave him some pretty good stats because he had a really good tournament in the U20 World Junior Championships for Team USA. So there he is, mid-elite. Next up, we got Bodie Wildy. He kind of fell off the ranks a little bit, but he's still a mid-top 4 because I think he's a pretty good defenseman. And next up, we got Kol Caulfield. He's been putting up almost Jack Hughes type numbers, playing on the same team as Hughes. I have him at a mid-top 6, 69 overall. As you can see, his stats are here. Next up, Kalle Klang, Swedish goaltending prospect. He's been putting some good numbers for where he's playing. I think he's playing the U18 in Sweden, but mid-elite because I like to have fun with this, is not take it too serious, even though I like to keep things realistic. But he could actually potentially be an elite goaltending prospect, so I went ahead and gave him it. Next up, we got Kol Holtz, another guy who's invited for Team USA's U20. Didn't quite make the cut, so I gave him a mid-7th, or I think a high 7th actually, for the LA Kings. I think him some pretty decent stats overall. Next up, we got Chad Kreis. He was also invited to the U20 tryouts for Team USA, but didn't make it. Still a good prospect, as he's a mid-top 6 potential for Chicago Blackhawks. Next up, Cale Makar. I'm sure you guys know Cale Makar. Went 4th overall. Really good offensive defenseman. Currently playing in college right now. Mid-elite potential at a 70 overall. So we'll probably see him growing into the NHL potentially next year. Next up, we got Casey Middlestat. Kid's a beast. Had an insane tournament in the World Junior Championships. One of the best hands I've seen. So I gave him good puck skills, and he's definitely going to grow into something more. Mid-elite potential. Next up, we got Cam York. He's a top 10, potentially a top 10 pick in the 2019 NHL entry draft out of United States of America. I give him a mid-top 4 potential. If you don't know more about this kid, just look him up. Next up, we got Donte Fabro. A good defenseman, played in the World Junior Tournament twice in a row, and he's a good prospect. 19 years old, currently playing in college. Give him some good stats all around. I could see him making the NHL potentially next year, if not the year after that. Next up, we got Danila Goostin, playmaker from Russia. Really good. He's giving up some good numbers over there, and I think he's going to be a pretty high pick, so I gave him 67 overall, mid-top 6 potential. Next up, we got Dylan Sandberg. He played for Team USA in the World Junior Championship this past year. Defensive defenseman. Some good, decent stats overall. I know he's 67, but he's also 18 years old in mid-top 6, so he's probably going to grow into something good for Winnipeg. At least they hope so. Next up, we got Dmitri Shushan. Probably going to be top 15 pick in next year's draft, as he's putting up some pretty decent numbers over in Russia. So I gave him a mid-top 6. Next up, we got Eli Tolvanen. This kid's a monster, has insane numbers in the KHL at such a young age. He's probably going to be finishing his career, well, not his career, but he's probably going to be finishing his year off with the Nashville Predators after he finishes his stint in the KHL. If his team doesn't make gets eliminated from the playoffs, he'll probably come over here. Anyways, he's a mid-elite, 74 overall, pretty good stats overall. Then next up, we got Gregory Denisenko. The ceiling on this kid is ever so high, but for the game's sake and his draft order's sake, I have him at 62 overall with decent stats overall. I'd probably raise these a little bit, but just for that, I give him this. Next up, we got Henrik Borgstrom. Potential Hobie Baker winner. This kid's got really good hands as well. I've seen highlights of him. He's a really talented forward. So I put him at a mid-top 6, 73 overall. And next up, we got Hendrix Lapierre. He could go number 1 in the queue for their next year's draft. And for fun, I gave him a low franchise, and I gave him a pretty good overall to start with. So he will probably be going pretty high in his draft year. Next up, we got Ian Mitchell, two-way defender for the Chicago Blackhawks out of the United States of America. He's got pretty decent stats all around. I gave him a low top 4, so we'll see if he can grow into something good for them in their franchise mode, or in my franchise mode. Next up, we got Ilya Samsonov, potentially the best goaltending prospect in the league right now. So I had to create him, gave him mid-elite potential, and I know his overall is a little low right now. But the reason I did that is because he's on a contract in the KHL, so hopefully he'll have time to grow into that. Next up, we got Igor Zeitz, another good prospect for the New York Rangers. He's also on a KHL contract, so he's also at a low overall, but he's a high starter. Same with Ilya Sorokin. Another Russian goaltending. Look at all these 3 Russians. They're taking over in the goaltending game, but also another low overall because he's on a KHL contract, and I think he's got like 3 or 4 years until he comes back over. So there he is at a 66 overall. He'll probably grow into something really good in franchise mode though. Next up, we got Joseph Anderson, New Jersey Devils prospect. Two-way forward. He played with them 2 years for Team USA in the World Junior Championships, so he's got decent stats overall, and he could probably grow into something pretty good. So I gave him mid-top 9. Next up, we got Jamie Drysdale. He's going to be a top 5 pick in the 2020 NHL entry draft, according to some scouts and according to Hockey News Magazine. So with that, I gave him some pretty good stats all on the board, as he's an offensive defenseman. Next up, we got Joel Farabee. He's been putting up some pretty good numbers for his club, and I think that he could potentially be a pretty high draft pick in next year's draft. So he's a mid-top 6, 63 overall. Next up, we got Jordan Greenway. He played for the USA in the World Junior Championships and also USA in the Olympics. Pretty good power forward for the Minnesota Wild. They gave him mid-top 9 potential, so he could grow into something pretty good. Here's his stats. His brother JD Greenway, taken by the Toronto Maple Leafs, is at mid-top 6 potential defensive defenseman. So there's his stats, and I don't think I showed you guys Farabee, so I'm going to go back and show you his real quick. Next up, we got Jack Hughes. Definitely going to be the number 1 pick next year unless something crazy happens. Here's his stats, as I gave him really good marks all around the board because I think he is a high elite. Next up, we got Jack Mcbain. He's fallen off the rankings for the draft a lot lately, so I lowered his stats and gave him mid-top 6. Next up, we got Josh Norris, San Jose Sharks pick in last year's draft. He had a pretty good play during the World Junior Championships this past year. So I give him mid-top 9 and some good stats all around. Next up, Jake Ottinger. Another really talented goaltending prospect that I had to include because EA couldn't. He played for Team USA in the World Junior Championships last year, or not last year. I guess technically it was last year and this year. But he had a pretty good stint. I only played like 1 or 2 games, but he was pretty good there, so I gave him high starter. He was also drafted pretty high for a goaltender. So there's that, and there's Joseph Woll. He played most of the games for Team USA in the last World Junior Championship. So I gave him some mid-starter for Toronto, and pretty good base to start off of for goaltending. I know they always take longer than players. Next up, we got Casper Simon. A lot of people are really high on this kid. I gave him mid-top 6. He's probably going to be going pretty high in the 2020 NHL entry draft out of Finland. Another good prospect out of Finland that I really like is Levi Alden. I've watched a couple vids on this kid. He's a really talented playmaker. I gave him mid-top 6, 65 overall, so he's probably not going to go too high, but he's still going to turn out to be a good player most likely. Next up, we got Luke Martin. He also tried out he got an invite for the tryouts for U20 World Junior Championships for Team USA. He's a defensive defenseman. I gave him mid-top 6. Next up, we got Michael Anderson. He did play for the Team USA in the World Junior Championships. Good two-way defender. Brother of Joseph Anderson. And he's a mid-6 for the Kings. Then next up, we got Mikhail Maltsev, Russian defenseman. Russian two-way forward for the World Junior U20s. He's also a Devils prospect. Gave him mid-top 9, so it could turn out to be something good. He played pretty decent for Russia in that tournament as well. And next we got Marco Rosie. Good two-way forward out of... where was it? Marco Rosie... Where is he from again? Oh yeah, Austria. He's one of the only Austrian players. He's potentially could be one of the highest Austrian draft picks next to Thomas Vanek. So I gave him a high top 6, 68 overall, because a lot of people are really high on this kid as well. So I gave him some pretty good stats overall. And next up we got Oliver Wahlstrom. A lot of people are really high on this kid. I am also. He's probably going to end up being in that 5 to 10 range in this year's draft. So I gave him some pretty good stats overall at a high top 6. Next up we got Patrick Harper. Played 2 years for USA in the World Junior Championship. He's a pretty good player, so I gave him a mid-top 9. So hopefully he grows into something good for the Predators. Next up we got Phillip Kemp, mid-7th defenseman. And we got Quinn Byfield. He got like his own page in Hockey News magazine's latest issue. I have him at a high elite power forward, 80 overall. He's going to be probably the number 2 pick to Alexis Lafreniere. So he's 80 overall, so really good pick. Next up we got Quinn Hughes, brother Jack Hughes, really good offensive defenseman. Played in last year's World Junior Championships. Didn't get a lot of ice, but from the ice he did, you could really tell he's got a lot of speed. And his defensive game needs a little work, but I'm sure he's going to develop into something good. 70 overall, same as Adam Boquist for overalls. Next up, we got Ryan Lindgren, recently traded to the New York Rangers. He's a mid-top 6 potential. And there's his stats. Next up, we got Ryan Poehling. Gave him a mid-top 6 potential for the Montreal Canadiens. I think this kid can turn into something pretty good. He's been doing really good in college lately, so 67 overall. Next up, we got Riley Tufte. Played for Team USA. World Junior Championships. Got decent stats all around. Gave him a high bottom 6. Next up, we got Shane Bowers, mid-top 9. Traded to the Avalanche from the Ottawa Senators. And after that, we got Samuel Busick. Had a really good tournament, the World Junior Championships. Went undrafted, so hopefully he'll go drafted next year, as I've met a mid-top 9. 63 overall. And next up, we got Tobias Bornfoot, another guy who's a pretty high-rated prospect. Probably going to go somewhere pretty high in the 2019 National Entry Draft, so I give him mid-top 4, 68 overall. And then we got Thomas Bordeleau, playmaker. Probably going to be a top 10 pick in 2020's draft. Next we got Trent Frederick, high bottom 6 for the Boston Bruins. He all of a sudden just blew up in the World Junior Championships one game. I think he had like 4 or 5 goals, but the rest of the tournament he didn't score any, but high bottom 6 regardless. Then we got Tanner Laczynski, Philadelphia Flyers prospect, mid top 9. He's been doing pretty good in college. And then we got Troy Terry, really good playmaker for the I forgot where he's playing, but he's fucking really good. He made the Olympic team, and he also was super clutch in 2 years ago's World Junior Championship for Team USA, as I think he scored like 3 goals in a row in the shootout. I'm in a mid-top 6. He's also putting up crazy numbers in college. I just can't remember what team he was playing for. But regardless of that, very good prospect for the Ducks. Next up, we got Vitaly Kravtsov, another really good Russian player who will probably go higher than Denisenko in the draft, but we'll see. So I give him pretty good stats overall. And we got Vasily Podkolzin, another good Russian prospect. He's at a mid-top 6 playmaker. Next up, we got Wade Allison. He's at a mid-top 9. Another good prospect for the Philadelphia Flyers. So potentially he could turn into something good. And then we got William Lockwood. For the ice time he had at the World Junior Championships, I thought he was really good. He's kind of like a grinder, two-way type player. And I think if he plays that game, he could have a really good role in the bottom 6 for the Canucks in the future. So I gave him a high bottom 6 potential. And there's his stats. And then next up, we got Igor Zeitz, a really good defenseman for Russia in the World Junior Championships U20 tournament. I gave him some pretty good stats overall because I did think his game was pretty good, even though Russia didn't do as good as expected. Regardless, there he is. And then we got Zachary Laharoux. I know it's crazy to be putting 14-year-olds as good prospects, but just for fun, I went ahead and made him because I think he could come into something sick. Plus, he's got a pretty cool name, and he's a real person. He's got really good potential, actually. So hopefully he follows through with that, and I boosted up his height and weight, or whatever, because I know the game won't do that for you. So mid-top 6 for him, and that's it for my created players. If you guys like the video, leave a comment, like the video. I'm thinking about doing a GM mode here pretty soon, so if you want, go ahead and leave a comment for the team you'd like me to do it for. But other than that, thank you guys again, and peace.